We're discussing faith and gay marriage today on DC Breakdown. I'm Angela Ray. Let's get started.
Breaking through the rhetoric, breaking down the issues. From the nation's capital, this is DC Breakdown.
Welcome to DC Breakdown. I'm Angela Ray. Just the mention of gay marriage can generate a religious rift that shakes the core of many faiths. As more and more states pass laws recognizing same-sex marriages, the Black church continues to struggle with the issue. We had hoped to provide opposing views on this issue, but at the very last minute, a minister against gay marriage canceled. We are very happy to be joined here in the studio by Reverend Cedric Harmon, co-director of Many Voices, an organization committed to LGBT inclusiveness. Thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you, Angela. Glad to be here.
Let's talk about the church.
Sure.
As you know, as we both know, the church for Black folks is everything for a lot of us. Our parents grew up in it. It was the one thing one place where we all felt safe. It was part of our socializing. It was part of our professional lives. It was the center of our existence. But when it comes to gay rights and gay marriage, the church seems to have stalled. What's going on?
Well, I would say, the church is in a position now in 2014 where they're applying their foot to the pedal a little bit more than most people realize. The Black church is not just one church, it's a combination of churches. And there are many churches that have engaged in a serious and thoughtful conversation recently around gay marriage and around human sexuality. The church has been dealing with so many issues, it has not taken a lot of time to deal with sexuality as a major topic. However, what we know is sexuality affects every area of our lives. And so Many Voices has encountered several pastors across the country and here in DC who are taking on, engaging in the conversation around gay marriage, around our gay and lesbian, bisexual, and transgender brothers and sisters who are sitting in our pews. Now,
let's point out, since May of this year, 19 states, including DC, have legalized same-sex marriage. 31 states have laws on the books either banning it or some sort of constitutional amendment, or both, but the train is moving. And the train is moving quickly down the tracks. And my concern is that African Americans may be getting a little behind when it comes to the issue because of some of the dogmatic preaching that goes on with respect to gays. I thought Christianity was all about love.
That is the core and essential message of the gospel. And that's actually where we begin our conversations with those clergy members and church leaders who are open to engaging in the dialogue. We start at the core of justice. Many of the pastors and churches are justice oriented. We come through the civil rights struggle. We've come through the struggles for women's rights and all of these various movements for equality. And so today, the issues of concern to gay and lesbian persons are at the core of the justice movement. So we start with justice and we base it in the love ethic. Jesus had nothing to say about gay marriage in the scriptures.
No, he didn't.
And yet people interpret the scriptures in very narrow ways often. And so opening up those scriptures and engaging in a thoughtful discussion of what theology actually has to say about those who work among us and live among us, and how we love our neighbor, even as we love ourselves. It's a great place to start.
People like to go to the Old Testament, Leviticus, and then seem to forget about the New Testament when it comes to this issue. I mean, you can't selectively choose.
Right, and that is the truth that often is not spoken, is that we bring our own experiences to our reading of the Bible, and we read it through our own lens. And so examining the scriptures means, first of all, examining ourselves. Often people have discomfort and misgivings around gay and lesbian persons that they've never met before. And they bring a moral judgment to sexuality.
But this is something that is anti-Christian. And if we're talking about being in Christian churches and following the tenets of Jesus Christ, loving your brother, irrespective of what that brother does on the side or, you know, professionally or personally, it doesn't matter. We're supposed to love our brothers. So how can members of the LGBT community truly feel comfortable in some of these churches?
Well, you know, in some places where the messages are so harmful and so harsh, they just can't. And so we have found that many gay and lesbian persons have to leave the church that they've called home because it's a toxic environment.
But does that make them then not believe in Jesus Christ or God?
Oh, no. What we know is that black LGBT people are deeply spiritual persons and they never depart from their faith. And so encouraging church leaders to recognize these are our children. These are God's children, and they want to be in houses of worship that welcome and receive them fully and completely as they are, being honest and authentic.
So what are your counterparts who are against same-sex marriage or even against people being gay in some senses? How do they justify their position?
There truly is not a justification. There is a willingness to hold to dogma and let go of love, in my opinion. If you go to love and then you stay there, then love does not allow us to judge harshly our sisters and brothers. It calls us to embrace them.
But we're not supposed to judge at all. We're supposed to leave that to God,
That's
you know?
That's correct.
So the message, you can't have a message over here when it concerns this, and then, oh, not for you people, oh.
Right.
So there's also the discussion that gay rights are not the same as civil rights, or that African Americans do become offended when they feel that gay and lesbian individuals and LGBT people are co-opting the civil rights movement and argument to, you know, to justify what is happening to them.
I've heard that argument, and I think it's a spurious one. You know, the movement for civil rights was the movement for civil and human rights. We all are human beings on this planet sharing it together. And so any step toward equality, you know, it's important to recognize that Dr. King was very clear. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so these treatments and mistreatments of persons who identify as gay and lesbian, and somehow casting them as the pit of the earth and to be discarded. No one can be discarded. Our community especially needs every sister and brother engaged, working to make sure that we all can live the best life we possibly can.
Talk about something personal that you can bring to the table with respect to you trying to help people in the LGBT community deal with what appears to be their own people disliking them. That's got to hurt.
There's a deep sense of loss when you are rejected by either your family or especially your house of worship. The place where you are told as a young child that, yes, Jesus loves me, and God has the whole world in God's hands. To have that message say, but not for you, leaves a deep and abiding scar. So there are times when gay persons who have been discarded need to go somewhere simply to heal and to hear a message that affirms them as God's child, loved exactly as they are. And then some of them are able to return to those places that have done them harm and engage in thoughtful conversation and dialogue. We need to hear the voices of LGBT Christians, and there are many of them whose voices have been far too long muted.
Wow, there's so much to talk about with this issue. It just breaks my heart to think that human beings are not treated the same way simply because of you know, the way they're living their lives. It's real personal. It just feels so wrong and so awful.
It truly is. I was speaking with a young lady last week, a 30-year-old professional, who said to me that in her opinion, the one institution that still is not giving her full recognition and acceptance is the black church. And so we cannot allow this to continue. If we are to be the church, if we are to deliver good news and glad tidings of great joy,
that's right,
we must do that for all persons, more especially those that are ostracized and oppressed and marginalized. And in our community, it happens to be LGBT people.
It does. Reverend Cedric Harmon, thank you so much from Many Voices for the work that you do, and we appreciate you showing up to talk about this very, very important issue.
Thank you, Angela, for the opportunity.
Thank you. I speak with the president of a group of black non-believers about atheism when DC Breakdown continues.